let's go ahead and learn about Kubernetes. Kubernetes originated from Google, where they've been deploying and working with containers for many years now. And internally, they have this tool called Borg. Was a very successful internal system that allowed Google to deploy billions of containers every week. From Borg, then they developed Omega, and from Omega, Kubernetes was born. Now, just to note that Kubernetes is actually written from scratch. So it shares the same DNA of Borg and Omega, and the difference here is that it's open source. So everything that developers at Google have learned over the years developing Borg and Omega, they took all of that knowledge and mistakes along the way, and they came up with Kubernetes. So Kubernetes is open source, which means that both you and I can contribute to this awesome project. Fun fact, Kubernetes is actually written in Golang, which is an amazing language. And if you want to learn about Golang, go ahead and check my website where I've got a course on Golang. Now, the easiest way for you to picture Kubernetes is by looking at this picture. So here you can see that we have this cargo, and Kubernetes really, it means pilot. It's a Greek word that means helmsman or pilot. You can see that the ship has a bunch of containers, and then Kubernetes is actually managing all of these containers. Now, if you know about containers and Docker, then this should be somewhat familiar to you. And if you need to learn about Docker and containers, go ahead and check my website where I've got a course waiting for you on Docker. So let's dive a little bit deeper and understand Kubernetes. So Kubernetes, aka K8s, where the 8 is the 8 letters in between K and S, is an application orchestrator. So in this picture, you can see that we have Kubernetes, and Kubernetes orchestrates all of these applications. When we are talking about applications, we mainly refer to containers. So Kubernetes deploys and manages our containers. It also scales up and down according to demand. It performs zero downtime deployments, rollbacks, and much more. So knowing Kubernetes will set you apart from many software engineers, because right now the demand for people that understand Kubernetes is quite high, and the salary as well is super high. So knowing Kubernetes will take you a long step in your career. Now, when we talk about Kubernetes, we need to first understand what a cluster is. So a cluster is a set of nodes, where a node can be a VM or a virtual machine, and these can be running on the cloud such as AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud, or even on premises. Now, when we talk about the Kubernetes cluster, we have to understand the difference between the master node and the worker node. So the master node is simply the brains of the cluster. So this is where all of the decisions are made. And then the worker nodes, this is where all the heavy lifting work happens, such as running your applications. And both the master and the worker node, they do communicate to each other via the kubelet, which I'm going to teach you in a second. Now, within a cluster, you often have more than one worker node. And for this particular cluster, we have 4 nodes in total, 1 master node, and 3 worker nodes. Now that you know what the Kubernetes cluster consists of, next let me go ahead and dive deep into both the master and worker nodes.